It's as though he doesn't want us to make sense of it in our terms. And when he sums up, he resorts to meaningless generalizations.
We attempt to control the powerful impact his paintings make on us by considering the tradition in which he worked and the range of possibilities open to him. The effort only increases our admiration for House's unwavering commitment to his personal vision, which enriches our consciousness of our fellow men and heightens our awe for the ever-increasing power of the mighty impulses that enabled him to give us a close view of life's vital forces.
This is mystification. Children, until they are educated out of it, are forced to accept the mystifications, look at images and interpret them very directly. They connect any image, whether from a comic or from the National Gallery, directly with their own experience. I showed a reproduction of the Caravaggio to a group of schools.
I think it would be a started film. That one, so I'm not going to read it and start it. And then he's going to why not? Something like that.
He must be up.
Yeah. Just like that.
What makes you think like Jesus?
Well, he's in the center of the table and he looks like he might be a leader of some kind. And they got food on the table there.
What the rest of you think about him saying that he's like Jesus? Some of you think it's bad, some of you think it's because they were really looking and really relating what they saw to their own experience. They recognized something that most adults wouldn't. Without knowing the artist's name, they learned anything about Caravaggio's life or the fact that he was a homosexual. They immediately saw how sexually ambivalent the principal figure was. I can't pretend to clairvoyance and children, but in the next 3 programs, I'm going to try to relate the experience of art directly to other experiences, and to use the means of reproduction as though they offered a language, as though pictures were like words rather than holy relics. How we see women, possessions, advertisements, and their promises, which surround us on every side. But remember that I am controlling and using for my own purposes the means of reproduction needed for these programs. The images may be like words, but there is no dialogue here. You cannot reply to me. For that to become possible in the long medium of communication, access to television must be extended beyond its present narrow limits. Meanwhile, with this program, as with all programs, you receive images and meanings which are arranged. I hope you will consider what I arrange, but be skeptical of
So this is the first part of the documentary. It's of course more developed than the article you had, and I believe it needs several viewings before you probably can digest all the information it contains. I myself watched it several times because it contains a lot of information and a lot of very interesting suggestions. So this is what I recommend you to do. Go home and watch it several times. Don't hesitate to pause, to repeat some sections, and maybe to do more research whenever a name of a painter, let's say of an event are suggested, because John Berger is actually talking to an audience which is familiar with European painting. You are not familiar with European painting, and therefore you might have problems to understand all the references. He is an art historian, so he knows what he's talking about. We are not art historians, so there are lots of gaps and a lot of misinformation. But I think that the purpose of this class is also to allow you to do more research and to investigate and learn more about art in general, but visual studies in particular. I would like to hear from you what are the most striking things you got from this video, briefly.
Painting lost its uniqueness because it can be found in different places and time and sizes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can manipulate pictures.
Yes.
Seduction of the painting.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Music and the rhythm change the meaning of the picture.
Music and rhythm and composition can change the meaning. Yes.
We see pictures in the context of our own life.
We should contextualize pictures and images. Yes.
The movement of the camera also changes the meaning of
The movement and the perspective dictates the meaning.
that every image is actually affected by the caption that comes with it, or affected by the music that is played while watching.
Indeed, this is what you say, the rhythm and the movement and the composition affect the meaning as well.
Paintings can be more expressive than writing.
Yes, indeed, paintings or images, let's say images, because in this video he was referring from time to time to images in general, either in TV or in sometimes ads, but he of course focused more on paintings. So probably this film tells a lot, and that's why I recommend you to revisit it again when you go home. So this is simply to introduce you to the video. There are 4 films. It's up to you to watch them one by one. I selected for you 1 and 5, but you can watch all the films. Okay? So just watch all the films, and I'm sure you will learn a lot. Every film is about a particular topic. So this is about meaning, but when you move to film number 2, it's about women. When you move to number 3, it's about ownership and possession, and then about advertising. So, but all these videos and films are, of course, introducing some very interesting arguments. Now, let us try to reread this first section by going back to the text and relating to it. Now, when you open, of course, the first sentence that strikes you at the very beginning is the following. Scene comes before words. The child looks and recognizes before it can speak. So what does that mean? Scene. So what does that mean? That seeing comes before words. It sounds very obvious when you read such sentences. It sounds almost a banal, a common knowledge. But it's not really that obvious. So what does this imply? What does it mean to you when you hear such arguments? Seeing comes before words.
We cannot utter any word before we see the thing we want to use this word to describe. In acquiring knowledge, visual comes at the first place.
To acquire knowledge, we need sight. What else?
The babies start by recognizing and understanding their surroundings before they master the language.
Indeed, the child learns the language of the eyes before the language of words. So this is actually something that we rarely pay attention to. Our knowledge as human beings, and they, of course, as children, because this is when we start acquiring knowledge. Knowledge could be language that we use. It could be recognizing our surrounding. It could be categorizing things. We say that this is a tree and this is an animal, this is food. So this is knowledge. It's all the acquired information that we accumulate all along our life. And of course, when we are children, the first, let's say, means to acquire this knowledge is the eyes, and not, let's say, the words. It's not words. So eyes, or sight, is the first means to acquire knowledge. So we sometimes forget this very basic, let's say, prerequisite. We tend to believe that all of a sudden we have become adults and that we can read and we can interpret. No, that it doesn't work like this. It rather works in the way John Berger is presenting it, that we acquire knowledge as children because of images that we capture, images that we acquire. This is not actually the unique case of children. Even us as adults now acquire knowledge thanks to sight, eyes, particularly in this, let's call it, pictorial age. In this pictorial age, or this visual age, most of our knowledge depends on images. And I would even say that a long time ago, even people used to depend on images to acquire knowledge. For example, in some of the paintings he referred to what is called the icons. And the icons are these religious figures you find in churches. It could be Jesus, it could be saints, it could be Mary, it could be all these icons. Now, when you went to church as a Christian, the first thing that would strike your eyes is not the words of the preacher. Actually, it is these images, right? These icons. When you see, have you ever been to a church? Or maybe you have watched churches in films or whatever. Everywhere in all the churches, you will see the image of the Christ. And everywhere you will see the image of Mary. And you will also see some other saints. So the church has deliberately based its communication on images, on visual images, particularly that of icons. Icons are, of course, Jesus, Mary, etc. So this is how a Christian becomes a Christian, because the picture he or she receives from the church as an example are full of images. Today, when we go out in the street, we watch so many images. These images could be in billboards, you know the billboards? They could be in magazines, it could be on TV, it could be on your smartphone. So images are actually everywhere. And therefore we acquire a new knowledge. So we acquire knowledge about what is happening in the world, what are the new products, etc., etc. Therefore, images, right? Images are actually the main source of knowledge, and not the written words. When we say this, I am not, of course, excluding the importance of words or texts, but I am only trying to re-establish the balance between the visual and the scriptural, the written. Because we, for different reasons, have all been probably misled by the dominance of the script, and we have excluded the visual from our knowledge and from our concerns. And all of us think that when you are a learned person, it's when you can read and write. That's not enough anymore. To read and write nowadays is not enough. It's also probably to read images in a different way. This is probably what we can call visual literacy. To be a visual literate person, it is to have this ability to read images and to deconstruct them. You see, we are going back to what we studied last year. So, in this case, we can say that knowledge, and particularly the visual knowledge, can be therefore divided at least in two types of knowledges. Positive knowledge, where you learn how to read, how to develop your intellectual capacities, how to enrich your experience, etc., etc. This is what John Berger was trying to tell us. His video or his documentary is the kind of positive knowledge we normally should all acquire to understand the meaning of images and to have this critical reading of images. But knowledge or visual knowledge can also be a negative one when you are considered only a passive consumer of images. You are only told to trust images and to take them for granted. This is not knowledge, it is mystification. Okay? He called it mystification. It is manipulation. Something else that this article, I stick now to the article because I believe that the video contains a lot of details and I cannot cover it all. So, of course, you should watch it several times, take notes from it, and then you just come to a comprehensive reading of all. Now, we also learned from the video and from the article that our vision is, or our sight is selective. our side, we learn again from John Berger, is selective. And I would like you to go to page 9, where he mentions this. Page 9, the top of the page, 3 lines down, we have our vision is continually active. Someone needs to read, yes sir?
Our vision is continually active, continually moving, continually holding things in a circle around itself, instituting what is present to us as we are.
Right. Our vision is continually active, continually moving, continually holding things in a circle around itself, constituting what is present to us as we are. In other words, I call this our vision, or our side is selective. What does that mean? When you say that our side, our vision is selective, is moving, changing, etc.
Once we use the sight, we don't keep looking at everything, we just look at something that has a relation with us.
Or you?
We choose what we see. It's like the difference between listening and hearing. We see many things, but we choose what to focus on and what to forget.
So choosing, choose, select, yes. We pick and choose, by the way.
When we look at an image and focus our sights on a part of it, we can change the meaning of the general meaning of it.
Right. So that's actually what we mean by ways of seeing. Ways of seeing means also the multiplicity of seeing. Every image is never seen from the same perspective. It is always seen from different angles, interpreted differently, according to who we are and where we stand. In other words, our eye, or you see, eye for eye, our eye is almost like a camera, looking at things from so many different angles. So this is, let's say, the object we are looking at, but this object is never seen similarly. If it is a man, a woman, an object, a tree, or whatever, we never identify it in an identical way. Never. It's always seen differently. If I am, let's say, standing here, and someone is standing in the middle, I will look at that object only from my right angle. But that person will look at it from the frontal position. If someone is on the left side, he or she would look at it from the left side. Or if I am above or standing on a high position, I will look at it as if I am dominating the object. If I am below, I am dominated by the object. Or if I am a man, I would have a different gaze. We call it the male gaze. If I were a woman, I would probably look at that object differently. So images are never seen in an identical manner according to who we are, where we stand, etc. etc. In other words, visual meaning is subjective. I'm sure we can try this. If we had an image now, we can try it now. I don't have an image, but this could be an image. So, this is actually an image, isn't it? I would like you to tell me what can you see here? In one word, if possible.
It's colorful.
Colorful. And you?
Delicious, maybe.
Delicious. And you? Yes. Fruit? Mm-hmm.
I'd say nature. Because
Nature.
The color.
Green. And you?
I'd rather blend the colors here.
Green again, colors. So as you can see, someone considered this bottle a food to eat, a drink to eat. Someone considered it a nature, a resort where to relax. Someone considered, I can't remember all your impressions, but actually this image has not been seen in the same way. It's not because the image is different, but our way of looking or our ways of seeing are different. That's all. Is it therefore legitimate to speak about a visual truth?
No.
Only subjective visual truth. Something else we learned from, again, the first article is the relationship between the I and the other. John Berger tells us that when we seek, we are also seen by the other. When we seek, we are also seen by the other. In other words, seeing is a language, a communication, an interaction.
Without
So
words.
that's again seeing. And it's a very silent dialogue between different people. Sometimes we identify ourselves according to how the other sees us. Sometimes we do our best to look fashionable, attractive, serious, etc., because we expect the other to see us in such an image. In other words, even our definition of the self depends on the other. We send images to the other images. You see again? When wearing sometimes new clothes, seductive clothes, traditional clothes, as an example, we are actually sending an image to the other, telling the other, this is who I am. Okay? Can you give me some examples of how such language does exist indeed in the street between the I and the other as far as seeing is concerned? How the public space is also a space where communication is constantly on.
In an interview, we try to sell the image that we are serious and
Good. In an interview, particularly for a job opportunity, we try to get dressed in a very professional manner. So we are, of course, we see the other, we see ourselves through the eyes of the other. So we identify ourselves or define ourselves through the eyes of the expectations of the other. Another case, another example. Yes, sir.
In Friday, when the men wear the jalaba,